Hey everybody, Tenebrous here. Today I'm going to be talking about moonwalking slash God bridging and whether or not it is actually possible to do legit. Moonwalking slash God bridging is a bridging technique which involves the player walking straight backwards without shifting and placing blocks under him, essentially allowing for a player to bridge much faster since you don't have to be shifting. And there's been lots of claims that have been made about this, such as, oh, if you get the timing right, you can do it no matter the CPS and stuff of that sort. I'm going to discuss those later. But while you ask, Tenebrous, is this possible legit? Is it possible to moonwalk slash God bridge legit? Well, the short answer is no. It is not possible to do it legit. I will talk about why it's not possible to do legit a little later. But first, let's go over some basic facts about Minecraft, which will help you understand where I'm coming from and why it's not possible. Let's begin, shall we? The first thing you need to understand is that Minecraft is a tick-based game which runs on an engine of 20 ticks per second, meaning that every 50 milliseconds the game ticks, which a tick meaning that the game is basically updating your position, your look, anything about your character, it updates every 50 milliseconds. Now, this is extremely important because besides a very small number of packets, everything runs on this 20 tick loop. Now, why is this very important in terms of block placement? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because you have to place blocks within a tick. You cannot not place it within a tick, because if you don't place it within a tick, your client is not running on 20 ticks per second. And it is 100% impossible for your client to be running on more than 20 ticks per second without modifying the jar itself. So now that we've gone over that, I think it's time for me to explain why this is important in terms of block placement. So I'm going to get some red and blue wool from my inventory to demonstrate why it is. Now, when you place a block in the world, the earliest possible time between looking at the block and the block actually being placed is 1 tick. So on an individual block basis, the fastest it can be placed is 1 tick, meaning that above 20 CPS, it would not matter in terms of how fast you can place a block on a singular block. Now, it is possible to place more than 1 block per tick, but it has to be on a separate block. Before, I was talking about on a singular block, and now I'm going to be talking about on separate blocks. So I have 2 macros set up to demonstrate how this works. So with the red wool, I'm going to be using a 20 CPS macro, aka the limit of the individual block placement. And with the blue wool, I'm going to be using a 100 to 200 CPS right-click macro to demonstrate that you can place more than 1 block a tick because you're able to look faster than more than 1 block a tick, basically, because you kind of have an infinite speed that you can go. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now. All right, guys, so I think it's time to start the test of the 20 CPS macro with the red wool, and then later on we'll do the blue wool with the 100 CPS macro. So I'm going to be kind of flying this way and, using the macro and seeing how many blocks I place and stuff of that sort. So let's begin. All right, so let me turn on the macro right here and go this way. As you can see, I'm placing 1 to 2 blocks a second, basically, like this. Occasionally, I place 2, and sometimes I place, less. Sometimes, there's spaces in between. But overall, this is what 20 CPS looks like in terms of this movement speed. Alright everyone, so now that we've shown what the 20 CPS macro is, I think it's time to start with the 100 CPS macro. So I'm going to be moving approximately the same speed this way with the blue wool, but instead of using a 20 CPS macro, I'm going to be using a 100 CPS macro, and I hope you guys will be able to tell the difference. So let's go across like that. And as you can see, occasionally, I am actually getting 3 blocks every time I place it, and also I'm getting a lot more blocks up on the second level, so I'm placing more than 1 block a tick more often, and I'm not getting any spaces in between the wool. So I'm going to fly up right here so I can demonstrate the actual difference. So here you can see that a lot of the time it's, 1 block and then 1 block above, occasionally, but here it's pretty consistently 2 blocks with little spaces in between of 1 block. But over there, there's, for example, blocks right there. Now, the reason why there's a discrepancy between these two is because Minecraft allows you to place more than 1 block a tick, but it has to be on a separate block. So I'll turn on my macro again, and as you can see, the 100 CPS is faster than the 20 CPS. So the first one was the 20 CPS. The second one is the 100 CPS. So as you can see, I'm placing much more blocks with the 100 versus the 20. I just wanted to show you guys that so you can understand how timing affects block placement, because that's important to understand why it's not possible to moonwalk. I'll be showing how this works on an individual basis. So I'll start off with the red wool, or the 20 CPS macro, and then go to the blue wool, the 100 CPS macro. So let me turn on the 20 CPS macro and now walk straight back. As you can see, I consistently place a block underneath me. In the same time, it's going to take me to place a block underneath me with the blue wool with the 100 CPS macro. As you can see, it's exactly the same. And that's because the earliest possible time for you to place a block is approximately the same for 20 CPS and higher. So here it is in slow motion. Hopefully you guys can see it's basically the exact same. If there is any discrepancy in the clip, it's because of human error, me not syncing the clips entirely correctly. But as you can see, it's definitely not the difference between 100 and 20 CPS. Okay, so now that we've gone over that, I believe it is time for me to demonstrate that moonwalking is not possible. So, to do this, I'm going to be using the 20 CPS macro, as I showed right here. It has the exact same place time as the 100 CPS macro on an individual block, contrary to that over there. So, I'm basically going to be standing on this block and just walk straight backwards. And let me turn on the macro right now. All right, and walk straight backwards, and I was able to get around 3 blocks, or 4 blocks right there. I think the first one I kind of did, like, kind of looking over like this and down. So let me do it again, walk straight back, and I couldn't get a single block there. Let's try it again. Oops. Let's try it again, see how many we can get. And we got approximately 3 blocks there again. Let's keep going, see what we can get. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 blocks right there, and this is with a 20 CPS macro, which is the shortest possible time you can place a block underneath you. There is no timing argument, because as I showed previously, it is impossible for above 20 CPS to affect how quickly you can place this block underneath me. So for example, if I just do that, we got 2 right there. The first one didn't really count, so I guess we just got 1. Oops, let me go up there again. Let's keep trying, see how much we can get. Oh, doesn't look like we got any that time. Let's go back up this way. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there, which is awesome. And I'm going to actually explain to you guys why 5 is actually the limit to how far you can moonwalk backwards without falling off. Now, in Minecraft, walking backwards is the same as walking forwards, and it basically will move you 4.317 blocks per second if you walk straight. If you turn, of course, it changes. We've talked about that a little bit before. But yeah, so walking backwards is 4.317 blocks maximum per second. Now, this is important because if you take the 4.317 blocks a second and divide it by the 20 ticks a second, you'll figure out how many blocks a tick you can walk backwards. Now, after doing the math, 4.317 divided by 20, you get approximately 0.21585 blocks per tick. Now, this means that every time you place a block backwards, you lose approximately 0.2 of the original block. So after, 5 iterations of that maximum, you will actually fall off the block no matter what, because the block placement cannot keep up with how fast you're moving backwards. And this always happens because when you place a block backwards, you have to place it within a tick. And if you're just moving straight backwards and you're not turning at all and you're just going straight backwards, it has to be maximum of 5 blocks backwards. Now, I'm going to be very specific about this. It is 100% possible to, bridge without shifting if you go up a block. So let me turn on the macro right here and go back like this. And as you can see, I did a bunch of blocks right there. Let me actually go up here. So let me turn it on and go up and back like this. And as you can see, it's perfectly possible for me to go up and back like this without falling off, without shifting. And this is with a 20 CPS macro, so it's going to be kind of difficult. You would have to time your placements really well, but if I try to go backwards like that, it becomes basically impossible for me to do it without some sort of modification to my game. Alright, so the final thing I'd like to touch on is I'd like to just say that this is not the same thing as breezily bridging. Breezely bridging is way different than this because breezely bridging actually decreases your speed when you go side to side like this. As you can see in the bottom left, or sorry, bottom right, you can see that my speed fluctuates between 4 and 2, and that's not the same as going straight back like this in moonwalking. So I'll probably make another video about breezely bridging in the future and whether or not it's actually possible to do legit, but for now, that's pretty much it. This is basically proof that moonwalking / God bridging is not possible legit, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.